Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here. I'm bringing you all an update to my Bavsargra Cardfight Vanguard deck profile for post-Blazing Dragon Reborn. We did get some new support for this deck in the Set 6 Cardfight Vanguard Overdress Booster Set, giving more support for the Arms deck, which focuses on equipping orders as weapons onto Bavsargra, one for defense and one for offense. So you have this option along with the many different weapons. We got a new Grade 2 in Set 6. So I figured just changing up some of the numbers for how the deck runs was definitely needed. Always like updating the deck, and big thanks to my buddy Nick for letting me borrow his Bavsargra deck for the profile. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the ride deck, our starter is still Sealed Blaze Dragon, our Hinsa. When rode upon, if you went second, draw a card. Our grade 1 is Sealed Blaze Dragon, number car. When placed on Vanguard by riding from our Hinsa, use Soul Blast 1, search your deck for up to 1 Sealed Blaze Sword, Privith, or 1 Sealed Blaze Shield. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So you can either search out either one of these two weapons and add it into your hand. Our grade 2 is Sealed Blaze Dragon, Halibardra. When placed on Vanguard by riding from Sealed Blaze Dragon, number car, choose an arms card from your drop zone and put it into your hand. So even if you have to use the arms card for a discard cost for the ride, you can at least add back thanks to this grade 2, or even if you were to heal it as, a damage from your damage zone. And our grade 3 is Sealed Blaze Maiden, Bavsargra. For the added option, additionally with the copy we are running with the ride deck, we are running 3 additional copies in the main deck on the Vanguard Circle once per turn. When this unit is armed, you can soul charge 1, choose a grade 1 or less card from your drop zone, and call it to rear guard. So this is meant to set up our Trick Moon, which is our go-to booster for our deck, being able to hit some pretty big numbers with this card alone. And on Vanguard Circle, once per turn, if this unit is armed with 2 or more cards, you can Soul Blast 2, retire all of your opponent's front row rear guards, and this unit gets critical +1 till end of turn. So just the added pressure, taking away potential interceptors or other units your opponent may have wanted to use, and then having the pressure along with your other armed cards that you have with your Sealed Blaze weapons. For the other grade 3s, I also run 3 copies of Sealed Blaze Dragon, Adarla. When this unit is placed on rear, if your Vanguard has 1 arms, counter +1, choose an arms card from your hand or drop zone, and arm it to one of your Vanguards. It gives you additional search power for the arms cards, being able to set them up as quickly since you can only, equip 1 per turn. And during your turn, if your Vanguard has 2 or more arms, this unit gets plus 5,000, making it an 18k attacker on its own. I potentially wanted to run 4 of this card. I was mixing around some of the new numbers for the new grade 2, but decided to stick to 3 of this. You can always, drop down one of the numbers for your other cards to put in a 4th copy of this card, but also just player preference at that point also. Moving on now to the grade 2, still running 4 of the Sealed Blaze Dragon Ashinya from the latest Fighters collection. When this unit is placed on rear, perform all the following according to the arms on your Vanguard. If it has a right deity arms, it gets plus 10,000. If it's a left deity arm, counter +1, choose a grade 1 or less from your drop zone and call it to rear. Just another option for you to call Trick Moon onto the field with this card. So definite 4 of just for the search and recycle power. The new card from Blaze Dragon Reborn we are running is the Sealed Blaze Dragon Shabda. During your turn, if you have 2 or more arms on your Vanguard, it gets plus 5,000. And from the drop, when your unit is placed from drop to rear, if your Vanguard is Sealed Blaze Dragon Bavsargra, you can counter +1 and call this card to rear guard. Just an additional option to call a rear guard onto the field thanks to this card. Like I said, if you want to drop this card down to a 2 of count, you can always put in the 4th copy of Adarla, since it does work with the drop zone, and at most you just want the 2 on each rear guard. I run the 3 though, just to risk in case you get one in your damage zone, and you always have the option of just, not drive checking it or using it for that search as well. And then for the grade 1s, a pretty low grade 1 count because we do work with Trick Moon as well, but running 2 copies of Stealth Dragon, Fushimashi Madoka. On the rear guard and guard circle, if your opponent's drop has 4 more cards, it gets plus 2,000 power and shield plus 5. If it has 8 or more, it gets an additional plus 5, making it a 15k guard. Just great for the grade 1 option to hold into your hand, having the same, shield power as a potential trigger unit, and also having the strength to be a 10k booster on the rear guard. And then the other grade 1 that I run is just Twin Buckler Dragon, the Sentinel of choice. If you have the Elementaria Sanctitude, you can take out 1 copy of Twin Buckler Dragon and put in the copy of that Blitz Order for extra guard against the triple drive attacks, but still just being the go-to Sentinel for being able to block attacks. And if you have the 1 card in hand, you don't have to pay the discard cost, saving you another Sentinel in your hand for the potential guards. For our grade 0s, before we get to the triggers, we are additionally running the 4 Trick Moon. When this unit is placed on your back row center, rear guard from drop, you can countercharge 1. You do counterblast a lot in this deck, so having Trick Moon as a countercharge card makes up for the potential counterblast from Shabda being called out, and then also being able to give you the option for saving that counterblast and getting it back with cards like Ashinya also. And then just being able to, when it boosts, this boosted unit gets plus 10,000 power until the end of that battle for each of your sealed Blaze Maiden Bavsargra is armed with. That is the additional pressure that you can provide to your Bavsargra with your Trick Moon, getting 10,000 for each of your sealed Blaze Maiden Bavsargras armed with. So that's 20,000 power in total. 25k on top of a Persona Ride can just hit for a massive number against your opponent. For the armed cards, I'm running 4 Sealed Blaze Spear at Hitya on the right deity arms, Sealed Blaze Dragon Bavsargra. Play this card with a counterblast of 1. When this card is armed, you draw a card, and you may play an additional arms card this turn. And during your turn, this unit is armed, it gets plus 10,000. Just an additional way to speed up the plays along with the Darla by being able to use this card for the draw power to potentially get into other orders for you to equip. And for the 1-ofs, I run the 1 Sealed Blaze Sword because it's searchable just like the Sealed Blaze Shield, having both of these options for the defensive power, and then the additional option with your Sealed Blaze Sword for the plus 10,000 at the end of the battle. If your opponent's damage zone is 4 or less, counterblast 2, and put this card into the drop zone to choose one of your opponent's vanguards and deal 1 damage to it. It does take some pretty big counterblasts, but you can make them up for with Trick Moon, so that's why it's not that big of a problem. With the last weapon being the Sealed Blaze Gun Chandra, with this card being played with a Soul Blast of 1. When it's armed, this card attacked, you counterblast 2, and the arm unit gets drive plus 1. Just an additional drive, additional pressure. We do run the very good over trigger to potentially get into restanding your Bavsargra, and just the overall pressure for the other trigger lineup that we're running. For the said trigger lineup, we are going with the Rainbow lineup for the additional pressure to your Vanguard and front row rear guards. So for Burning Flail Dragon, just so you can still have this critical pressure with your armed units against your opponent. And 4 of the Blaze Maiden Parama for the additional shield power that provides, making it a 20k shield if your opponent has a grade 3 or greater Vanguard. And 3 of the draw, I just found the front trigger pressure to be a little more useful for the deck, so the draw was backseat to that. With our heals, we're running 1 Cure Flare Draco Kid. The 1 Parasolus was supposed to be the other heal for the additional restand attack, and then just 2 copies of the Blaze Maiden Rena, I would say being one of the more fitting triggers to use with the entire Blaze Maiden deck. And then our over trigger is the Dragon Deity Dragveda for the option for you to restand your Vanguard and attack again. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed it. Like I said, Bavsargra got a little bit of support, so I feel it needed the update just to show what I would change with the deck, and I hope you all enjoyed. Maybe one day we'll get a different grade 3, almost like a cross ride or grade 4 option for Bavsargra. I guess we'll just have to wait and see if that ever happens. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.